Χαιρετισμός της αυτού μακαριότητος του Αρχιεπισκόπου Κύπρου κυρίου Χρυσοστόμου. Με αισθήματα ευαρέσκειας χαιρετίζουμε το επετειακό αφιέρωμα τιμής και μνήμης για την Ελληνική Επανάσταση και την ηρωική συμμετοχή και προσφορά της Κύπρου στον Εθνικό Απελευθερωτικό Αγώνα του 1821 και ειδικότερα στη θυσία των Κυπρίων μαρτύρων της πίστεως και της πατρίδος για την απαλλαγή από τον Οθωμανικό ζυγό, το οποίο διοργανώνεται από κοινού από τους φορείς American Hellenic Foundation of Western Pennsylvania, Greek Nationality Room Committee at the University of Pittsburgh και Ευρωπαϊκό Κέντρο Τέχνης URC της Ελλάδος. Ολοφώτινο ανατέλειε φέτος σε συνείδηση του ελληνισμού το μεγαλείο της εθνικής μας παλιγγενεσίας. 200 χρόνια μετά, η 25 Μαρτίου 1821, θρονιάζεται και πάλι στις ψυχές μας ως ο σπουδαιότερος ιστορικός σταθμός του νεότερου ελληνισμού, ο οποίος με τη λαμπρότητά του μας φωτίζει στο δρόμο του χρέους και των υψηλών ιστορικών μας ευθυνών έναντι της πολυφίλητης πατρίδας μας και της ελευθερίας της. Βέβαια, κατά τα 400 χρόνια της πικρής σκλαβιάς, ο ελληνισμός ουδέποτε έχασε την εσωτερική του ελευθερία. Το ποδάρι είχε δεμένο αλλελεύθερη καρδιά. Την ιστορική αυτή αλήθεια άλλωστε μας τη διακήρυξε και ο ελευθερωτής των Ραγιάδων, ο Θεόδωρος Κολοκοτρώνης. Το γένος δεν υποδουλώθηκε ποτέ στους Τούρκους. Είχε πάντα το βασιλιά του, το στρατό του και τα κάστρα του. Βασιλιάς του, ο μαρμαρωμένος βασιλιάς. Στρατός του, οι αρματολοί και οι κλέφτες. Κάστρα του, η μάνη και το σούλι. Και τίθεται το ερώτημα, ποιες ήταν εκείνες οι δυνάμεις που κράτησαν όρθια την ψυχή του γένους μας στους μαύρους εκείνους αιώνες της σκλαβιάς. Η δύναμη εκπορευόταν από την ιστορική παράδοση, όπου ήταν βαθύτατα ριζωμένη στην ψυχοσύνθεση του κάθε Έλληνα. Ακόμα και μέσα στους αιώνες της μαύρης σκλαβιάς, η πίστη προς την ελευθερία τον συνόδευε και λειτουργούσε ως μια ενδόμηχη βίωση, η οποία πολλάκις μετουσιώθηκε σε επαναστάσεις για την απόκτησή της. Αυτήν την ιστορική παράδοση ήρθε να ενισχύσει κατά ένα μυσταγωγικό και θεϊκό τρόπο η χριστιανική μας πίστη, η οποία παράλληλα με την πνευματική ελευθερία του ανθρώπου δίδασκε και την πολιτική του ελευθερία. Η ιστορική παράδοση, αρχαία και βυζαντινή, συναρμόστηκαν με τη χριστιανική μας πίστη σε μια ενιαία εσωτερική δύναμη που καλλιεργούσαν και οδηγούσαν την ψυχοσύνθεση του Έλληνα στην πολυπόθητη ελευθερία του, η οποία θα του επέτρεπε να αναδημιουργήσει τον πολιτισμό του και να λατρεύσει ελεύθερα τον εκουσίως παθόντα, ταφέντα και αναστάντα Κύριό μας. Εορτάζοντας και τιμώντας εφέτο τα 200 χρόνια της εθνικής μας παλιγενεσίας, έχουμε ιερότατο χρέος να αναβιώνουμε συνεχώς και μάλιστα κατά τρόπο πολύ έντονο όλες εκείνες τις διαχρονικές αξίες για τις οποίες οι προγονείς μας έχυσαν το αίμα τους και να συνεχίσουμε να αγωνιζόμαστε συνεχώς για αυτές, μέχρι ότου η δικαιοσύνη και η ελευθερία διαλάμψουν και στους γλαυκούς ουρανούς της πατρίδας μας. Ιδιαίτερα εμείς οι Έλληνες της Κύπρου, οι οποίοι δεχόμαστε συνεχώς απειλές από τον ίδιο βάρβαρο κατακτητή για τουρκοποίηση της πεφυλημένης μας πατρίδας, επιβάλλεται να κρατήσουμε το ελληνοχριστιανικό μας φρόνημα ακμαίο και κατακόρυφο και με πίστη στα δίκαια του αγώνα μας να αγωνιζόμαστε συνεχώς, ώστε να παραδώσουμε στις επόμενες γενναίες μια πατρίδα ελεύθερη, στην οποία οι κάτοικοι της να ζήσουν με αρετή ως τίμιοι και αγαθοί άνθρωποι, προάγοντας όλες εκείνες τις αξίες του πολιτισμού, τις οποίες ως ελληνισμός δημιουργήσαμε και παραδώσαμε στην ανθρωπότητα. Κλείνοντας, επιθυμούμε να εκφράσουμε τα θερμά μας συγχαρητήρια προς όλους εσάς, οι οποίοι συμβάλλατε στη διοργάνωση του λαμπρού αυτού επετειακού αφιερώματος. Συγχαρητήρια οφείλουμε να εκφράσουμε επίσης και προς τους λοιπούς συντελεστές, οι οποίοι θα αναβιώσουν ενώπιον όλων το μεγαλείο της θυσίας των μαρτύρων της πίστεως και της πατρίδος. Με πατρικές ευχές, 28 Ιουνίου 2021, ο Κύπρου Χρυσόστομος.
Dear friends, although the Greek Revolution began in 1821, it was preceded by decades of preparation inside Greece, but also in other parts of the Ottoman Empire, and certainly in Europe. Beginning tonight, and over the next 4 days, we will present an underexplored and underappreciated chapter of the struggle of the Greeks to liberate themselves from the Ottoman overlord. This is the contribution and sacrifice of the people of the beautiful island on which, according to Greek mythology, the goddess Aphrodite was born. The beautiful island of Aphrodite, the island of Cyprus. The Ottoman Empire's geography was formidable, and outside of Greece proper, there were many Greek communities that were persecuted. Communities that were left behind after the fall of Constantinople in 1453, such as those in the geographic areas that are today found in Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia, Northern Macedonia, and Albania. Although many believe that the revolution began in 1821 in mainland Greece, in fact, the revolution had begun much earlier and in other parts of the Ottoman Empire and in Europe. By the 16th century, those Greeks who had fled the Balkans to live abroad began the struggle at the level of publishing, of interacting with those who would later become Philhellenes during the period of the Enlightenment. Elsewhere, the Ottoman Empire, inside the Ottoman Empire, small communities rebelled. The heroes on the island of Crete in the 16th and the 17th century, the heroes in Mani in the southern Peloponnese, who resisted the might of the Turkish military, the heroes of the Orlov Rebellion in the Peloponnese in 1769, the heroes in Moldavia and Wallachia, Alexandros Ypsilantis, and the young warriors of the Ieros Lochos, the Holy Company, who initiated the formal military challenge to the Ottomans in 1821, even before the declaration at Agia Lavra on the 25th of March, 1821. The heroes of Cyprus. In fact, many revolutionary movements took place in Cyprus. Many of the community leaders, especially the clergy, were secretly members of the Philikiateria and participated in different ways, from the collection of funds to purchase war material, food, provide safe transit of these materials, and even volunteer fighters to mainland Greece. These contributions began as early as 1810. However, it would be in 1821 where Cypriots would become very actively involved in the revolution. Dear friends, at this time I would like to invite our distinguished guest, His Excellency, Mr. Marios Lyssiotis, the Ambassador of the Republic of Cyprus to the U.S., to offer us his insightful and inspirational greeting.
It is with great honor that I extend this message of sincere greetings and congratulations to the friends and members of the American Hellenic Foundation of Western Pennsylvania on the occasion of this unique event to commemorate the Cypriot heroes of 1821. The Renaissance of Hellenism was a long process. It was inspired by a reconnection with the classical Greek tradition and its values, the principles which also inspired and shaped the American Revolution. It was nourished by the Christian Orthodox faith, which formed, as it does now, an integral part of the Hellenic identity. The Greek War of Independence, with its message of freedom, self-determination, the dignity of man and his inalienable rights, inspired the European peoples and set the pace for a long process that transformed Europe. The foundation of schools, the Greek printing presses in the major centers of the Hellenic diaspora, the intellectual and cultural renaissance of Hellenism paved the way for the actual struggle for freedom. The Cypriots participated actively, both in the long gestation of modern Hellenism and in the actual struggle for freedom. More than 1,000 fought in the War of Independence, while others contributed with every means at their disposal to the success of the revolution. The whole church hierarchy, the Archbishop and 3 metropolitans, and almost 500 prominent Cypriots were preventively executed in July 1821. These heroes we commemorate in this event were the intellectual, social, and spiritual leaders of Cypriot Hellenism. It was the unity and mobilization of the Hellenes wherever they found themselves, in Odessa, Amsterdam, Marseille, in the old and new worlds that contributed to the success of this noble endeavor. Let us preserve this lesson, as relevant now as it was crucial then.
In 1821, on the occasion of the appearance of Greek revolutionary leader Konstantinos Kanaris at the coast of Lapithos near Kyrenia, and the rumors about secret agreements between the Greek Cypriots and the Greek revolutionary movement, the Ottoman administration on the island sent 4,000 Turkish soldiers to Cyprus. These soldiers started disarming and terrorizing the Christian residents. Renowned members of the Greek Cypriot community were arrested, and many were executed. The massacres of Greek Cypriots in this month, July, 200 years ago, were a tragic event, a blood orgy punctuated by the hanging of 486 notable men and church hierarchs, with ensuing slaughter of Christians in various parts of the islands. The slaughter continued for 30 days. Immediately following the massacres, a number of Cypriots who escaped decided to go to Greece and volunteer in the revolution. Among these volunteers, 150 died in different battles. It is estimated, however, that at least 1,000 volunteers left Cyprus to fight in mainland Greece. Today, we are only aware of those 150 who died in battle. Cypriot volunteers were distinguished by the unique flag they took with them into battle, resembling what eventually became the Greek national flag, but with the additional inscription, Σημαία Ελληνική Πατρής Κύπρου, Greek flag of the homeland Cyprus. In Messolongi, a monument for the Cypriot dead fighters reminds us of their sacrifice among the besieged local population which died fighting in their attempt to break the siege and exit the town. Cypriots also fought for their own emancipation and incorporation into the Greek state with the diplomatic and military means they had at their disposal following the Revolutionary War. One such attempt was an effort from Greece which was combined with a plan for the incitement of revolt in Lebanon, which at the time was also under Ottoman occupation. Towards this objective, a mission was sent to Lebanon to investigate and find out the intentions of the Lebanese people. The mission was covertly blessed by Cypriot church hierarchs, including Archbishop Damaskinos and the bishops Panaretos of Paphos, Leondios of Kitium, and Charalambos of Kyrenia. The mission was constituted by the Metropolitan Grigorios of Evdokiada and the Cypriot Charalambos Malis. In spite of the enthusiasm and commitment of the Cypriots, the mission and the objective was not officially acceptable by the Greek government. Various war chieftains, however, and especially Vassos Mavrovouniotis, Hadjimichalis Dalianis, and Nikolaos Chrysostomus, nevertheless undertook to materialize the plan in Lebanon and Cyprus on their own initiative. Other Cypriots, such as Bishop Vikentios, supported the initiative of the Greek revolutionary chieftains. In spite of the opposition of Charalambos Malis, who insisted that the mission would fail without formal Greek government support, the mission, nonetheless, was realized. Unfortunately, the complement of 2,000 men and 14 ships in March 1826 failed to mobilize the Cypriots as well as the Lebanese. In spite of this failure, the Greek fighters did take on Turkish Ottoman troops in Cyprus in what is, at least under the currently available history and documents, the only known formal battle between Greek fighters and Turks on the island of Cyprus. On March 1826, Greek revolutionaries, together with Cypriots, attacked the Turkish Guard and the Turkish military department of the Famagusta Guard at Agia Napa. The historical reference to this is the report of the Dutch consul in Larnaca, Marco Antonio Sant, in which he states that about 200 Greek revolutionaries had arrived in the sea area of Agia Napa with 20 Greek ships, and after a fierce battle they defeated the Turkish Guard of Famagusta. He writes, The Turkish guard, which was assigned to guard the palace, did not hesitate to attack them, although the battle was small and intensified when 200 Turkish soldiers arrived in a hurry from Famagusta. In a few hours, the Turks bent down. They abandoned the fight and fled in disorder. Their losses in the dead, wounded, and captives are estimated at 15 people, and the invaders received many munitions. After this battle, the Greeks boarded their ships with a collected loot. The fury of the Turks could have led to tragic events similar to those of July 1821, had not the wisdom of the commander of the Egyptian army on the island prevailed and impressed on the Turks to not retaliate. After the end of the Greek Revolution, many Cypriot volunteers remained in Greece, poor, ragged, miserable, many of them with large families to support, living in various parts of the newly created small Greek nation, for the liberation of which they fought. With their wounds as medals awarded for bravery won with blood, they lived the rest of their lives silently and quietly. When many years had passed, many of them, old men, submitted the certificate of their participation in the Greek Revolution to the Greek state, signed by various known captains under whose orders they had fought, in order to obtain a meager pension. From these certificates, saved in the Greek state archives today, the names and actions of many Cypriot volunteer fighters in the Greek Revolution are known. Having acquired Greek nationality, other fighters instead chose to return to Cyprus to spend the rest of their lives in their villages of birth. In 1866, the consul of Greece and Cyprus, G.F. Menardos, he had prepared a register of Greek subjects of Cyprus, of whom some were old volunteer fighters in the Greek Revolution. Thus, the names of more Cypriot fighters became known. Nevertheless, even today, many other Cypriot volunteers in the titanic struggle for the freedom of Greece remain unknown heroes. Either they remained in Greece free and their names were not recorded, or they lived their lives in other countries, or they returned later to Cyprus without declaring their participation in the revolution, fearing any potential consequences. The Cypriot fighters fought on land and sea, and were present in the principal and biggest fights, serving under the orders of captains like Kolokotronis, Makriyanis, Nikitaras, Ypsilandis, Kanaris, Karaiskakis, Zavelas, and others. In addition, some were found in epics marked with martyrdom, such as the long resistance at Messolongi. During the Revolution, and 1826 in particular, a formal company of Cypriot fighters was created for a short period of time, and they were distinguished by carrying a unique Cypriot military flag. It is white in color with a big blue cross in the center. On the upper internal white square, one of the four squares which creates the cross, the sentence Σημαία Ελληνική Πατρίς Κύπρου is inscribed. This company of Cypriots, called the Ionian Phalange, took part in many and important military operations in the Peloponnese and mainland Greece until its dissolution in 1827. The Ionian Phalange was formed after a general meetings of Ionians, that is, people from the western coast of Asia Minor, and was named so because of this reason. In addition, Greeks from the islands of the eastern Aegean Sea and from Cyprus were members, as well as from other Greek parts, Macedonia, Thrace, and Epirus. According to records, of the 359 fighters of the Ionian Phalange, it appears that at least 19 were Cypriots, because they are clearly mentioned, instead of by surname, by Kypreos, or Kyprios, Cypriot. The Ionian Phalange, under the command of the Smyrnian fighter Yanakos Karoglu, fought under the general command of captains such as Nikitaras against Ibrahim Pasha in the Peloponnese, and afterwards marched in Attica and took part in the battles against Kyutahis, who sieged the Acropolis of Athens between 1826-1827. According to the historical studies of F. Michalopoulos in his work Cyprus and the Greek Revolution, more than 100 Cypriots were killed in the battles in Athens and Phaleron. The Ionian Phalange took part in the campaign under General Favier, the French general, for the liberation of Chios and other military operations. Furthermore, 6 Cypriots are found in the lists of fighters among the people of Hydra, the island of Hydra, who fought under Makrigiannis, Dimitrios Kalergis, and Athanasios and Nikolaos Papas. It seems that these men were members of Cypriot families, principally merchants and sailors, permanently established on the island of Hydra, who participated in the Hydrian Corps, another band of fighters. Similarly, other Cypriots who were established in various other parts of Greece had been enlisted in units formed in the places where they lived in Greece. For example, the fighter Konstantinos Cypriotis and his son Georgios Konstantinou Cypriotis, who, as testified from their governmental certificates, lived before the revolution on the island of Psara and served on Psarian vessels that took part in various clashes in the sea, including on the fire vessel of Konstantinos Kanaris. Our tribute to the Cypriots in the coming days, my dear friends, will focus on the role also of the Cypriot clergy in the revolution. And at this moment, it is possibly the best time to introduce the history of some of these martyrs. The Bishop Philotheos, a Cypriot prelate, suffered martyrdom in the province of Arcadia in the Peloponnese. His birth name was Philotheos Hadzis, and he was born in Cyprus, studying letters in Constantinople. In 1795, he was elevated to the episcopal throne of Dimitsana, an important town and region from which many of the Peloponnesian revolutionaries began. As a bishop, he gave particular emphasis to education by creating or reinforcing schools in his region. He soon was initiated and became an active member of the Filikiateria. Immediately thereafter, he pledged and recruited the entire population of Dimitsana into the secret organization, an accomplishment which constitutes a unique phenomenon in the struggle for Greek independence. However, another important accomplishment which served the struggle and was in the process of under preparation was his support of the gunpowder mills of Nikolaos and Spiridon Spiliotopoulos of Dimitsana. They produced large quantities of gunpowder, which was stored in various parts of the region to be used once the struggle began. The entire operation of manufacture and storage of gunpowder was dangerous and was performed with the utmost secrecy under the supervision of Bishop Philotheos. At the beginning of 1821, he was invited by the Turks in Tripoli, the administrative capital of Peloponnese then, near Dimitsana, together with other prelates of Peloponnese, the bishops of Monemvasia, of Christianoupolis, of Olenis, Nafplion, Argos, and Androusa. There, together with other prominent citizens, they were arrested and imprisoned. Bishop Philotheos died inside the prison under harsh torture on the 10th of September, 1821. Had he been able to survive a little longer, he would have been able to witness the liberation of Tripoli by the Greeks on the 23rd of September, 1821. One interesting, but as yet unconfirmed note of history is that the bishop of Old Patras, Germanos, the famous Germanos who raised the revolutionary flag at Agia Lavra, was of Cypriot origin, perhaps on his father's side, given that he was born in Dimitsana in 1771. Minas Hamoudopoulos writes in the Patriarchal Great School of the Nation, Aletheia Volume 1, published in 1880-1881, and on page 220, that the Bishop Germanos was of Cypriot origin. Dear friends, we would now like to extend a tribute to specific individual Cypriots whose participation is better known and historically documented. Please join us in the following roll call of these heroes as our tribute to their participation and their sacrifice.